Hey guys, it's Daniel Faust with War Hero to Superhero, helping military veterans and first responders transform their lives from the bedroom to the boardroom. This is our last day in our superhero battle room this week, and we got a War Hero to Superhero in the battle room that is transformational. He went from the army to the depths of the low and now has come back as a coach, even with COVID going over and taking out the business that he works with. He still strives to go over and help veterans, military, to go over and to bring their lives back to the front. So I want to welcome Richard Kaufman to the show, and he's going to share his War Hero to Superhero story. So we're going to bring him in. Hey, Richard, you there?
Hey guys, how are you?
Awesome, awesome. So we want to go over and have you go over and share your war story, and then we'll get into some other questions.
Okay, I don't really have any cool war stories. I've just been through. I think the biggest war is between the 6 inches between my ears. That's always been my biggest problem. I came back from drug addiction, alcoholism, homelessness, PTSD, a traumatic brain injury, now blindness. I went in the military in '86, got thrown out in '88 for being a drug addict and an alcoholic. Got back in '90, stayed in for almost over 20 years, and then got ran over by a Humvee, ran over my head, and lost my vision. And uh, and I've been blind in my left eye since I guess it's about 9 years now.
Mhm.
And now I just decided after that, after I got hurt, to start helping other veterans that are struggling with all those depression, drug issues, alcohol issues, and stuff like that.
Yeah, so you were able to recover, come back into the service, and then you got hurt back in the service. But you went through all these points of that should have destroyed you: the depression, the alcoholism, the PTSD. You go over and that, and then you go over now blindness and everything else. So, what made you go from these low points to wanting to help people? Because most people would just stay there.
Well, what the biggest turnaround was is um, I went back in military back in 1990. Um, I was not doing very well. I was not a good soldier at all. And I was due to be thrown out again at the end of September of 2001. And then 9/11 happened. And something changed in me, something broke in me. And I had to go back and beg my company commander and first sergeant to keep me. And they seen something different in me. And I decided that from that moment on, from the moment I seen the airplanes hitting the towers, that I wanted to dedicate my rest of my life to helping people that can't help themselves. And that's when my life really started to change and my perspective changed on that Tuesday morning.
Wow. So going from there, what was the bounce back? So you went over, and made that decision. Now, how long did it take to bounce back to go from that? So if I remember correctly, you had like you went from like horrible NCO to best NCO, got some really awesome awards, and you got a full retirement, which is fantastic because most of those things, at least in the Air Force, would have destroyed me if I went through that. They would have kicked me off on the first one. Boop, done.
Well, what happened was I got busted from E4 down to E1. That's why they were going to boot me out in September, the end of
Mhm.
September. But then after I begged them for the fifth and sixth chance that they gave me, that's when I really started to seeing what the winners started doing. So as an E1, I started hanging out with the E4s, the E5s, the E6s,
Mhm.
taking sparse correspondence courses. And within 2 years, I won Soldier of the Year. Within 3 years, I became a non-commissioned officer, and
Mhm.
just everything just started going good from that point on.
That's really awesome. So what'd you retire as?
E5 promotable, but ever since
Okay.
I had to go. They kept me in med hold for like a year and a half, 2 years, so I couldn't be promoted at all.
Mhm.
I've had in my career, unfortunately, I had like 5 or 6 different Article 15s, which is UMCJ actions against me. So I went from E4 to E1 like 4 or 5 times, or else I would have been much higher.
Yeah. Well, that's still a transformational story to go all the way back and forth in that particular regard, because especially just the blessing of how Army works compared to Air Force. It's like when we get demoted, like from there, it takes a long, long time to go and do that. So that shows the fervency of work that you did, the trust that you were able to build back in that, and then also how the Army is structured that they can allow you to go and restore. That's a really amazing process.
I've been truly blessed.
Mhm. So going from there, so you got out in 2010 because of the medical. What made you go over and start pursuing this comeback coach mentality? I started seeing you, I guess, in 2017, 2018, but from 2010 to that, what got you into health and wellness? You started working at GNC for a long time and everything else. What made you go towards that route?
Well, one of the things is that even when I was in the National Guard, I always had a job either at a gym, at a general nutrition center. I've always been involved in the health and fitness industry, and it's something I've been doing over 32 years. And I continued doing that through my whole military career. Even when we were deployed, I would work on base and stuff like that. So it's just something that always interested me. And so I kept on doing that even after I got hurt. And then what happened was I was talking to a friend of ours, Donnie Boyven, and I was
Mhm.
on his podcast, The Success Champions. And I was telling him, because I've done a lot of work with guys from the WWE, NFL, Major League Baseball, NBA, and then I started telling him my backstory, and that's when I kept trying to tell him, what I'm doing now, but he kept on hitting on the backstory, and he
Mhm.
said, there's a lot of fitness guys out there, health guys out there, but there's not a lot of guys that have gone through what you've gone through. And that's when I decided to start helping other veterans that are going through the same exact thing that I've gone through or am going through.
Yeah, and that's the amazing part because yeah, most people just get caught in the present and help people to get a better future, which is great. But if you can't help people through taking your past and bringing that with you just to visit, then to help them to have a better present and a better future, because then you can not just only empathize with what they've gone through, you can actually sympathize what they've gone through.
Yeah. And it's funny that you're talking about empathy. Because last night I couldn't sleep and I was up thinking about our talk tonight. And I was thinking, what would be my superpower if I was a superhero? And I think that would be called Empathy Man, because I'm so empathetic to people, because I've gone through what they've gone through, or I've, been through what they've been through, and I can totally understand. And I
Yeah.
think superpower is empathy, not sympathy, but empathy.
Yeah,
Is it?
most people get that confused, and let's explain that to the audience real quick. I'm going to explain from a mental health background, and then you can explain how you go over and use it. So most people can't be sympathetic. I've been hit by a car in almost a bus. Most people have not gone through that, so they can't be sympathetic to me. Now, my friend from Rhode Island been hit by 5 cars in almost a bus, so when I had that conversation with him, he's gone through similar situations, so he can visualize what it is, and he was able to be sympathetic. Now, empathy is going over and learning to visit in the shoes, and that's your superpower, because no matter who you meet, when I was at MIC DC, you just morphed to the person. You literally connected to the person. The person could be like 6'9" and totally like buff and everything else, and you could go over and totally relate to that thing. And then a person like me, it's just like I'm like nothing in a sense of that size, and I don't think of physical fitness, but we were still able to connect. You were able to meet me where I was. And then you went to the next person in line and you just literally became that person. You kept putting on the person's boots in a sense and met with people. And you should have been like the leader of there, because it was like, even when I met Cortez, he's great with the events, but you're the person that literally would become whatever it was needed to be in that situation. So how do you use empathy in your comeback coaching?
Well, for me, I look at sympathy and empathy as, say if we're in a courtroom,
Mm-hmm.
and which I've been in plenty because I've been in trouble a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And the judge says, okay, I sympathize with you, but I'm still going to have to give you that $100 ticket.
Mm-hmm.
But if that judge says, you know what, Rich, I've been in that same situation. I've been through, I'm where you're standing. I've been where you're standing. I still have to give you that $100 ticket, but I understand where you've been. And because you are going to pay this ticket, now you can go out and change your lifestyle. And that's
Mm-hmm.
what the difference between sympathy and empathy is in my mind.
Yeah. And like I said, you do it exceedingly well. And as people are going over and watching that, if you need somebody to go over and to step into your boots and be able to walk with you in the past and in the muck to get you to walk through it and to become into a grateful present and into an empowering future, Richard is the guy you want to go over and connect with. So my next question for you is that we always ask all our war hero to superhero transformation stories is 3 superhero tactics. So let's say you could go back when maybe the first time you got out of service or even before that transformation in 2001. If you could go over and talk to yourself or as you're talking to your clients, what superhero tactics do you give them so they can go over and thrive?
Well, first you got to accept where you're at. And I'm going to go back especially to that time in 2000. I had to accept that I was about to be thrown out.
Mhm.
I had to accept that I was an E1, no longer an E4. And
Mhm.
then the second thing I had to do is I had to find people I can look up to. I can find role models and start doing what they do, not asking questions, just doing what they do. And then the third thing was, I would say a person just has to make a decision because about 2 years ago, I got to hang out with Gary Vee a little bit. And
Mhm.
he told me, that your legacy will always be more valuable than your currency. So that's the three things I would actually tell people to start thinking about your legacy now, because then every decision you make is going to be dependent on how you're thinking about your legacy.
I'd actually like to reverse engineer that because you had a great strategy that most people don't go over and do in growing their coaching or growing their consulting or growing their social media stuff. Most people just go in and they try to become that millionaire. They try to just push it out and everything else. And you had a great strategy that you're still pursuing. And I see the impact of that. So how did you go over and make your legacy in that thing? Because I know you've told me, but I want you to tell our audience on what he gave you as an awesome strategy to go over and do. Because at first, when you told it to me, I was like, sounds kind of, but now that I see it in fruition, it was a very powerful strategy. Do you remember that one?
I mean, he did. We talked for about 5 minutes, which is, him. He talks a million miles an hour, and
Hmm.
I, oh Gary, give me some nuggets that I can take home today. He says, promote your friends 10 times more than you promote yourself, and you will never have to promote yourself again. That was one of them. And then he said, you know what, Rich? Make yourself a hashtag. And that's how the hashtag the comeback coach began. And then the third thing he said, like I said, is just, he says, your legacy will always be more valuable than your currency. So those are the three things I took away from our talk that me and him had that day.
Yeah, that's very impactful because when we do this movement, whatever we go over and do, when we do it in scarcity, then people know it. And then when we're trying to uplift ourselves, then people know it. And then there's no traction to what we go over and do. It's kind of like going over and pulling ourselves by our bootstraps. It's such a common model, but if you literally pulled yourself by your bootstraps would snap
Yeah.
and you wouldn't be able to tie and you wouldn't be able to run. So it needs to have those people and you uplift them up and then you pour into their cup so much that it overflows and they want to uplift you.
Yeah.
So that's very powerful.
Like Robert Garcia, the warrior strategist, says, a rising tide lifts all ships.
Mm.
So everybody just can rise together if you have the same mindset.
Yeah, I've been hearing that recently. I forgot who also said that. I think it was Forbes Riley went over and mentioned that recently too in one of the groups I'm in. So she was like, "Yeah, rising tide raises all ships." So very powerful device to go over. So where can we go over and find you? Because I know definitely we want people to go over and connect with you. So if you can give me your website real quick, I'll go populate it into the live feed.
Richard
Hmm.
Kaufman is my website. But like Gary told me, if I everything that I do, I hashtag the comeback coach, and now it comes up. And if you just put in that hashtag, it comes up my Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, Pinterest, everything on social media. It comes up in that one hashtag, and it's free.
Then we will go over and advertise that to everybody. So if everybody wants to just go look up on, and you see the ticker on the bottom if you're watching it live, just go pull up the hashtag the comeback coach and you can go over and connect with Richard. So if you are struggling through the things primarily through like PTSD, depression, I know Richard's helped several people with weight loss too. I know
Yeah,
he had a gentleman that was had diabetes. He was trying to lose 30, 40 pounds as
yeah.
did he actually get to his goal? Because last time we talked,
He actually lost 240 pounds.
woo, yeah, he was only at 30 at the time. That's amazing. Woo, man.
Yep. And we have one guy that I'm working with still. He's waiting to get his on. He had to lose a certain amount of weight so he can get his kidney dialysis, get a kidney transplant. So now he's just waiting on the word to get the kidney transplant.
And that's it. And that's absolutely amazing. So even through all your struggles, you're still going over and helping people. Like I said, that is not a normative to most people. So if you need somebody that has gone through the mire and is still going over and serve you, you need to go connect with Richard. Go look up the hashtag the comeback coach. Go over and connect with him. And here's the last thing for the audience that's going over and watching. We've been airing for like 17 minutes and 42 seconds. Now, we know the world is busy and we know maybe you can't go watch all 17 minutes and so whatever how long the interview lasts. But if you want to lift Richard up to our television show, War Hero to Superhero, all you have to do is give 3 seconds of your time. 3 seconds of your time triggers a view in Facebook. So if you want Richard's in-depth interview going through the mire of what he's gone through and how he's truly come back, that's the interview that we will uplift. But he needs a 3 second view from you to give him one view on Facebook. And if he gets the most views in 72 hours, then he will go over and be the comeback coach for War Hero to Superhero next month on the television show. So that's all you have to do is to go over and share that and do the 3 second view. Right now, the number is 252 this week. That's how many views is one of our leaders on the board. So I'm pretty sure, Richard, you can meet and beat that. So but we'd love to go over and see that. So you get 3 days from today to go and do that. And as you guys are watching, audience, just go over and just share this, go over and like and go over and comment that. We'd love to go lift them up. And we will announce the winner on Sunday because Richard's our last interview this week. So, Richard, do you have any parting things to say to our audience before we close out?
Nope. I just want to say that my closing line is everybody loves a comeback story, and today could be your day. All you have to do is ask for help because, on average, 35 first responders, including 22 veterans and 2 active duty soldiers, commit suicide every day. And most of it is because they do not ask for help.
Definitely key on that. And guys, I'll be doing my push-up session in a couple of minutes. So if you guys need those numbers and resources, you'll see that in my next live for the whole push-up dedication. So again, we will see you guys on Tuesday. Our new July schedule will be Tuesday through Thursdays. We'll be entering back into the bedroom. So if you guys are struggling in the bedroom, be watching Tuesday through Thursday. Also watch us on Podopolo. And if you want Richard to be uplifted to the War Hero Superhero TV show, go over and just take 3 seconds of your time to give a view. We prefer you to listen all 20 minutes, but if that's all you got, Richard will be thankful for that. And thank you for your time, sir.
Well, thank you for having me.
Oh, definitely much appreciated. And you guys have a good day. Thank you.
God bless.